We want to move now to a segment that we call start, sub, or sit. Coach, if you're set, we'll dive right into these.
Yeah, my mom is probably the only person listening for the first time, but go ahead.
It's got you. All right. So, Coach, this first one has to do with things that really get your blood boiling as a coach. So things that your team would do that just cause you to stop practice, blow the whistle, have a discussion, a teachable moment, whatever you want to call it. So the start would be just the worst for you. So start, sub, or sit, bad shots, bad turnovers, or bad or dumb fouls.
Wow. I would probably, a lot of things get the blood boiling. I would say number one, bad fouls, because when you take a bad shot, there's a chance it could go in. You can also run back on defense and hope to get a stop. When you have a bad turnover, definitely putting yourself at risk if it's a live ball turnover, but you can at least hopefully sprint back and make it tough to score. But when you foul someone on a shooting foul, you're basically giving them 3 points. So I would start that. Turnovers, I would sub, because like I just said, a live ball turnover, you're putting yourself at major risk. Give up transition being the most valuable play in the game in terms of offense. And then I would, I guess, sub bad shots. I kind of made a living for a little bit on shot selection and how to create good shots. And that was kind of my job for a lot of times in Boston. Not a very fun job to be the one that says that's a bad shot or we could get one better. So I feel bad subbing it, but I have seen guys like Bryce Cotton and Vic Law and Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and lots of other guys take really hard shots and make them. And sometimes that's the only shot you can get, and you got to be able to knock them down. So I'd much rather that than the first two.
You said something interesting, and I think it's a great point with your sub, I guess, was bad turnovers. And you made the distinction between a live turnover and like a dead ball turnover. And do you talk about that at all with your team, as far as like, if you're getting trapped, to just take, if you can't, instead of throwing a cross court pass, to, maybe you take a dead ball turnover versus a live one, or, the difference between those two types of turnovers that can lead to easy baskets?
I don't talk about it much. I guess the only time we would bring it up is if it happened in a game or a practice that we were reviewing the film of. I guess it's just one of those things that you hope is common sense. Never assume common sense is there, but you would hope it's there, that we don't want turnovers, number one. And number two, we don't want a live ball turnover. We have a player on our team named Jesse Wagstaff. I think this is his 15th or 16th season, has 5 or 6 rings, one of the most decorated players in the NBL history. And he saved a ball going out of bounds that would have been ours and threw it right to the other team. They went down and dunked it a few weeks ago. And he's forgotten more about basketball and about winning than I've ever known. So I didn't really want to go too hard on him, but it was a time to make a little bit of a joke and everyone could have a laugh at it. And he knew he messed up. So I guess it's one of those things that maybe you have to remind someone every now and then, but you don't have to really go too hard, because everyone has at least that much common sense, I would hope, at this level.
Coach, just a really quick follow-up. Your bad shots, you mentioned that you that was your thing for a while, as far as bringing that up and dealing with that. I guess, how would you do that with guys that can make, almost any shot that they take, but really trying to hone in on the ones that were best for the team? How would you have that conversation?
My favorite one was one time we were in Miami, and if you guys have ever been around Miami, it's a pretty fun place, some might say. And a lot of the guys tend to get out and enjoy that. The next morning, they're not always as excited about hearing about shot selection. I remember one time in Miami, Coach Stevens asked me to do a little speech on shot selection after the night in Miami. It was probably the biggest flop of anything I've ever said in my career. I still have nightmares about that. But over the years, I've taken a few shots, and I feel like the best way to do it is to watch a lot of film, know your stuff in terms of what shots guys can hit at what rate. So, for example, if a guy can hit a fadeaway jumper from mid-range 40% of the time, that's a 0.8 points per shot, to use it to basic math. And then what does your team shoot on kick out threes? Let's say it's 1.2. So there's a pretty big difference there. So the first thing you got to do is make sure the players all understand the numbers. You don't have to go too crazy with it, but understanding what 0.8 means, what 1.1 means, recognizing what your average is. So kind of like your minimum, like we're trying to get at least this. And then I talk to them about needing to be able to hit those 0.8 shots. Like that's very valuable that you can hit those. A lot of possessions, that's the best we're going to get against good teams. There's going to be several of those late in the clock. Keep working on it. Keep trying to improve the 0.8, but shoot it with confidence when it's the right time. The right time is after we've exhausted our options to get a 1.2 or a 1.5. And I know when I played basketball 75 years ago, I set a record for 3-point attempts and makes, but more excitingly, attempts. And my philosophy then was, well, I'm shooting it at 36%. That's, simple math. That's better than 50%, which other guys are shooting from too. But what I didn't realize was you can get that 36% shot a lot, basically any stage of the shot clock. If you spend your time working for a layup or a dunk, everybody's hitting those at 1.4, 1.5, and you got to see the big picture. So I would tell even the best players, like, hey, getting you to the rim is worth this much. This shot you're selling for is worth this much less. We're going to need it, but let's try and get this one first, and then we'll come back to it.
Coach, staying on that, when in the shot clock is like those 0.8s are the best? Is it 10 seconds left? Is it 8? Is it 6 seconds left? Where then we want that 0.8 shot.
Well, I think it depends on who that person is and what, is it 0.8? Is it 0.6? All that stuff. Here in Perth, I don't like to get too stagnant, even though we do at times. Sometimes guys will throw it to Bryce Cotton or whoever the team's best player is and say, hey, go to work. And that makes it really tough on them too. So I think the longer you can hold off and continue to attack, whether it be in your motion or in your dribble drive, whatever it is that you do when your play breaks down, I think that's the best. And then maybe around 6 seconds, 7 seconds, I probably started to say, all right, let's just get the best we can do right now. Find the 0.8 guy and let him do his thing.